welcome to the Halftime, the #1 rated sports show and playing local. I'm Alex Shaheen, and my John Stockton, my Carl Malone, is Dan Eisenbray.
How you doing? And to all 12 of you watching today, thanks for your support.
We're going to start off with a little segment we like to call My Point Exactly. It's a segment where I teach Dan a thing or two about the wide world of sports.
We understand this is a kind of rip-off of PTI, but we feel that we're a lot better looking than Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon.
All right, starting off, we're going to talk a little bit about the BCS. I know there's a lot of controversy going on. Urban Meyer's whining a lot. Tell me a little bit about what you think. We're going to try to break it down and fix the entire system right here on the show.
Well, Alex, I think no matter what happens with the BCS, I think eventually there will be a playoff system implemented. But I think no matter what happens, you're going to have people complaining, and there's going to be people whining no matter what. I mean, if you put a playoff system, then you're going to have the question of how many teams to put in the playoff system and how it's going to work and who to put in the playoff system. And we were talking the other day, and I think you had a pretty good solution for this.
Well, I'm gonna fix it right here. We're gonna call this the Alex Shaheen Championship Series. You got your 4 bowl games, right? You got the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl. You got your 6 conference champs, 2 at-large bids. You throw them all in their respective bowls, and you make them have a playoff against each other in which they go in. The winners of the 2 bowls play in semifinals, and you finally have a championship game. Everybody's happy.
Well, there you go. It's solved.
Moving on, talking a little bit more football. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns. They're breaking my heart. What can the Brownies do to fix for next year in the offseason?
Well, they can do a lot. There's a lot of room for improvement, definitely. But I've seen a lot of positives with this young Cleveland Browns team this year. Obviously, the offensive line is a weakness, which I think you'd agree with that. And also, I'm not sure if Romeo Crennel is taking this team in the right direction. He's had a couple years now to try to prove himself in Cleveland, and I really think that it's time for a change. I mean, obviously, if the head coach isn't taking the team in the right direction, then you got to do something about it.
Who do you suggest would be better for that?
I think you need somebody bitter. You need somebody mean, you need the meanest man in the NFL who just gets physically, mentally, and emotionally tired of losing and can't stand to lose. That's why I think you need a guy like Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the meanest coach in the NFL, and I think he'd be perfect for Cleveland.
Just a mean, cruel, bitter guy, huh? All right. I feel that we lose by 8 points or less per game. The Browns, in 6 of their games, lost by 8 points or less. And in 4 of those games, they lost by less than 8 points. In those 4 games, they were sacked a total of 22 times. In their 4 wins, they were sacked a total of 10. That shows to me the offensive line.
Another thing to think about, maybe the cold weather. I think a lot of those guys are just too cold. Maybe we need to build a dome or something in Cleveland and warm up. And
I say we draft Outland Trophy winner from Wisconsin, Joe Thomas. His girlfriend is smoking hot. Next topic.
All right. Well, we're gonna still be talking about football here. NFL season winding down, and the MVP race is heating up. A lot of people think that LaDainian Tomlinson should be this year's MVP. Obviously, he's had an impressive season. His Chargers are 10-2, tied for the best record in the AFC. Who do you feel should be the MVP of the NFL?
I think you got to go with LT. He runs the ball. He throws the ball. He catches the ball. He's the entire offense. He has over 1,300 yards rushing as of Week 13. He's scored more touchdowns than anybody in the league. He's accounted for more points than anybody in the league. And I think the NFL MVP is the most valuable player in the league. He's the most valuable player to the team. You can't deny that. You take LT away from the Chargers. Michael Turner is a fantastic running back, but they're nothing without LT.
All right, I hear your point. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you. I think that Peyton Manning, year in, year out, is the best player in the NFL. And I'm going to tell you why. Peyton Manning, he's not only the quarterback, but he's the head coach and the offensive coordinator. He calls all his plays right at the line of scrimmage. He has this team in great shape this year, tied with the Chargers for the best record in the AFC. He's doing it without the edge. He's doing it without Edger and James, and that's even more impressive.
He still has a fantastic receiving core, though.
He does have a fantastic receiving core, but he is a fantastic quarterback. And you gotta keep in mind that their defense isn't really that great. Their run defense is horrid at times, and he's got this team in contention just by leading this offense down the field. Another thing you gotta think of, the MVP is not only the most valuable player on the field, in my mind, but who does the most for the NFL off the field? That's Peyton Manning. And if you've ever seen his commercials are hilarious. Best commercials on TV. He's making money for the NFL, MasterCard,
You are saying
SportsCenter, ESPN. He's a funny guy. He's a poster boy for NFL. Why wouldn't he be MVP?
You're saying that because Peyton Manning is a sellout, that he should win the NFL MVP.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough.
All right.
All right, we're going to
Moving
talk
on.
a little bit about hoops now. We're going to college hoops right now. Talking a little bit about our top 4 teams in college basketball right now. Daniel, you want to start us off?
Well, unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to see a lot of games this year. I mean, the season's still young. But based on from what I've seen this year, I think my top 4 teams, I'm going to go number 4, I'm going to go UCLA. Now, a lot of people have them penciled in at number 1, but I'm going to put them at number 4 just simply because of the reason I don't feel that they've played a high enough level of competition so far throughout the year. And obviously, Washington comes to town on the 31st of December. That should be a good game. But until then, I don't think they quite earn the number 1 ranking for me. Number 3 is North Carolina. Now, they have a very young and explosive, energetic basketball team, and they're a fun team to watch. They really are. I saw them against Ohio State, and they look real good. They got that Lawson, that freshman guard, and Tyler Hansbrough. I think they're a really good team, and they're just going to keep getting hotter as the season goes on. Number 2 is the Crimson Tide of Alabama, and I'm going to tell you why. I have not seen a basketball team with this much raw athletic ability since the North Carolina team a couple years back that went all the way. This team really impresses me. I mean, you watch them for a couple minutes and you're just like, wow, this team is so athletic. They just show up.
Ron Steele might be the best point guard in the nation.
Exactly. They got the best point guard in the nation, Ron Steele. And number 1 is a no-brainer. If you know me and you know anything about Ohio sports, number 1 is the Ohio State University Buckeyes with Greg Oden. Greg Oden is a man-child. Greg Oden is Goliath from the Bible story with better post moves. Greg Oden will take this team to the top. Plus, you got Thad Matta, great basketball coach, and you know that's all you really need.
Well, I'm going to pencil in Wichita State at that number 4 spot. They beat George Mason at home, LSU at home, beat Syracuse at home. Those are 2 Final Four teams from last year. Mark Turgeon has them playing fantastic basketball right now. All right, moving on. We're going with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Do they have the ability to make a title run? You got a lot of people talking about King James, comparing him to Jordan. Is that fair? Is that a fair assumption, Daniel?
Well, I think that their style of play differs in different ways. I think that with LeBron, he's kind of trying to do this by himself. When Jordan had Pippen, and I think that it's not really fair to compare the two. But I think LeBron is a great player.
I think definitely the Cavs, they are one of the best teams in the East. I'm thinking maybe the Pistons and the Magic might be a little bit better than them. I don't know if the Magic have what it takes to make it through the Eastern Conference playoffs. I think they could definitely make it to the championship, being the Cavaliers. Pistons are probably my number 1 right now. I think really the X factor on this team, if you look at it, is Big Drew Gooden. When he is on, the Cavaliers are on. He takes a lot of pressure off Larry Hughes and LeBron James offensively. And when he's cleaning the glass, pulling down rebounds, I think that's huge for the Cavs as they try to make this playoff run. And especially when they have to win those essential road games. I think there's a lot of pressure on Mike Brown right now. They have a rough time on the road. I think definitely with the way Z's playing right now, they could definitely make it through a pretty dismal Eastern Conference so far this year.
Well, I think they almost did last year. They were only a series away from the NBA championship, and any given year could be their year. You never know. It's just when you're hot, and you're going to be winning games.
All right. Moving on to the Baseball Hall of Fame, Big Mac Mark McGwire is eligible this year. Are you going to put him in, Dan? You got to vote. Are you going to put Mark McGwire into the Hall of Fame despite the steroid allegations?
You know what, Alex? I am going to put Mark McGwire in the Hall of Fame, and here's why. Mark McGwire's steroid of choice, Andro, was not banned by the Major League Baseball substance abuse policy when he took it, supposedly took it. And I think he did by pleading the Fifth Amendment, by not
Taking the physif.
yeah, by not incriminating himself, obviously, during the Major League trial. I think that I think he's guilty, but I also think.
Do you think it's fine the fact that he was taking drugs, cheating baseball, just by the simple fact that it wasn't legal at the time?
At the time, he wasn't cheated. And he kind of got grandfathered into
Was
that
it
rule.
not illegal by the United States of America to be taking this
not,
drug?
It was not banned by Major League Baseball, and I think
So Major
you
League
always got to
Baseball
push the system.
They have their own rules and their own set because they have their own governing body that these drugs are legal, but you just can't play baseball when you take them. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, I think you're ridiculous because I think that if it was that bad, then you got to ban it, which obviously they didn't ban it, so they didn't feel it was that bad.
It is partially Major League Baseball's fault for their.
I think it's all Major League Baseball's fault. I think it's Bud Selig needs to take control of this league. The players are running wild. They're spending $50 million just to negotiate contracts with people. I think that this league is ridiculous, and Bud Selig needs to start earning his money. If he wants to keep his job, he better get this league under control.
Dan, you can talk to me anytime for $2 million. Cool, $2 million, I'll do it. I would not put McGuire in the Hall of Fame. I mean, until he steps up and is the man that he says he is, and says, "I did it. Please forgive me." It takes a true man to step up and say that. I can understand taking the fifth in front of a grand jury, but you have to look at me in the eye as a fan of the sport of baseball and tell me, "I'm sorry for what I did. I took illegal substances to improve," but you take the steroids, you still got to be able to hit a baseball.
So
it's still pretty hard.
Exactly, but you'd rather have him come out and say he took steroids.
I would rather have somebody not sitting up there and try to make me look like a fool by making me believe that I should trust him and put him into my Baseball Hall of Fame as a baseball fan. I'd rather have him just come up and say to me,
I think that's respectable. If they don't want him in,
I don't think he'll get it. I don't think he'll get in unless he does it.
If there's any reason he shouldn't get in, then they need to ban him from baseball for life. That's the only way he won't get in.
Well, there's still not the proof that he did it. There's still no documentation they did it.
Well, then
he did take the fifth.
Exactly. Bud Selig needs to get his act together and maybe get a little investigation going there, find out what's going on with these crazy players.
Because we find out that Rafael Palmeiro takes batting practice. He takes infield practice. He also takes something else. We're not going to get on that. Next topic.
Well, our floor manager's telling us that there's no more topics.
I guess there's no more topics. All right.
Well, this will happen every show where we're going to kind of sit and talk about different things going on in the sports world. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we're going to move on to the next segment of our show now.
My point exactly.
Hi, I'm Chris Smith, Superintendent of the Plain Local Schools, and you're watching Eagle TV, Channel 11.
Well, welcome back to the halftime. We're here with fourth-year head coach of the Greynolds Golden Eagles basketball team, Jack Greynolds, and his star center, Ohio State commit Kosta Koufos.
It's good to have you here with us, guys.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. No problem. Well, Coach, coming back from last year, you guys have, of course, Kosta, Mark Quaid, your starting point guard, Dan Wagner coming off the bench, CJ got some playing time. But mostly, you guys got a lot of new kids. You guys got 2 freshmen, I believe 2 juniors, a lot of kids moving in from out of district. Tell us about what we're going to see this year out of the Greynolds Golden Eagles.
The first game we had some guys that weren't healthy. Dan Wagner had a sprained ankle for 2 weeks and practiced for about a day and a half, so he couldn't really go much against Copley. And then Scott Fisher burned his hand pretty badly on Monday, so he couldn't really go. So that kind of limited how much size we could use and different rotations. We could basically DJ was our only big guy we could use besides Kosta. So this week we're going to be healthier. I think we'll go deeper on the bench, and when those other 2 guys are healthy, Scott and Dan, we can put in different lineups. We can go big, we can go small, we can go a couple bigs with a couple of guards that can score. So we're going to have more versatility now. And that Copley game, we had to just kind of get through that one, and I think that was an important game for the young kids to be in front of a big crowd and try and perform. And like I said, we'll have more versatility, and I'm excited about playing the rest of the season with what we have.
Speaking of being excited, Kosta, I know there's a lot of big teams in the Federal League. It's a really exciting time in Stark County. There's a lot of talent right now, a lot of good teams. What game are you most excited about playing this year?
I'm excited about playing every game. I take every game as a championship game. I'm looking forward, obviously, a big matchup with Perry, McKinley, all that. But I'm just going to go in every game, think it's my last game of the year, and just make do what I have.
Awesome. Now, Coach, talking about all that talent, in the federal, especially in the Federal League, it could be a wide open league. I know we're rated #1, but who is the dark horse in the Federal League you feel? What team do you look at the schedule and you go, wow, that team is going to be a tough one?
I think Hoover. I think Hoover's kind of a team that's under the radar. I think they finished about 6th in the league last year, but they lost a lot of close games. They're playing some younger kids. This year it seems like all the hype is around Perry and Glen Oak because of the 2 big kids. McKinley's always going to be a factor. Like I keep saying to people, they're the winningest high school program in boys basketball in the state of Ohio. They've been great year after year for 75 years. And all of a sudden, you lose Raymar and some of those guys. They're not going to fall off the face of the earth. I mean, they're going to still be good. They have that tradition. Tradition is going to win you 5 or 6 games a year. Because teams are going to come in intimidated. Tradition is a great thing to have, and that's what we're trying to build here. We're trying to build that tradition where people know, hey, we might be a little bit down talent-wise on certain years, but we have that tradition, and we're going to come out and play hard, and we're going to steal a couple wins every year. And that's where we're trying to get to that point of